All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the North Shore School Board meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Well, here we are. We're figuring out this technology stuff fairly well. Everyone's here. Welcome, board members. And then the public. On behalf of the board, I welcome all members of the audience to this afternoon's meeting. This meeting is a working session of the board to conduct the business of the district. The agenda for today's meeting has been published, and the agenda items to be discussed and or voted on have been studied by the board members. I would like to introduce the people participating in this meeting. Recording Secretary Cindy Benson, Superintendent Dr. Michelle Reed, board members Jacqueline McGrady, Amy Cast, David Kogan, and Sandy Hayes. I am Bob Swain. I am currently serving as board president. Agendas for this meeting, as well as minutes from our previous meeting, are available online at boarddocs.com. Our first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Would the board like to make any changes to the agenda as it has been published?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, we'll call for the vote. Cindy, everybody flick over to your board docs page. There it is. Excellent. Let's flick. All right, the agenda has been approved. Thank you. Now we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Reed.
Thanks, President Swain. Well, we just came off of spring break and it's our first Monday back in school, in a manner of speaking. So we're continuing North Shore Learns version 2.0 with a very high rate of attendance, well over 98% of our students connecting.
Nice. Great.
Yeah, it actually really is. We've been really pleased. I want to share that we are continuing to evaluate a decision around this grading practice for the end of this semester, whether we're going to go with letter grades or some kind of pass and no credit structure of some sort. We understand OSPI has convened a group of educational leaders in our state early this week, and they're going to make some recommendations on these grading practices. So we're going to wait and see what they have to say. In the interim between now and April 24th, we are sticking with our pass or no credit phase at this time until the state comes out with some new guidance. I will say that the University of Washington has come out with a strong statement that all students who have a pass-fail for this spring will not be harmed in admissions decisions for the coming year. So I think that's an important data point to be considering in terms of looking at what our state colleges are thinking about and our technical schools. So the other thing I want to share is that this week I'll be doing some town hall virtual meetings with our junior class. On Wednesday, our juniors have a lot of questions about how this semester is going to play out for them. What happens since their SAT and ACT tests have been canceled? What is this spring of their junior year semester situation? How's that going to impact their post-secondary plans moving forward? So we've gathered questions, and I'll be going online with a couple of our student board members Wednesday afternoon to answer those questions. On Friday, I'll do the same with our 8th graders. We've received a lot of feedback about concerns around transitioning to high school next year. Will they be ready? What is that going to look like? So again, several of our student board members and I will visit with our 8th graders, and then we'll be visiting with our 5th graders a week from Wednesday. Our 5th graders are very concerned about outdoor camp, about transitions to middle school, just 5th grade graduation and end of year, end of elementary career types of celebrations. So we'll be sharing more information on that. I will say that last week I met with our student board last Thursday during spring break, and we discussed end of year activities like graduation, prom, senior breakfasts, the types of things that I think are very important right now as huge social markers for sure for our high school students. So we're going to come back and revisit that topic later this week as well. Want to update you on our food and nutrition. As of today, we've served 53,820 meals to our students and families since this pandemic has entered our community. And we're serving 60 kids in childcare at 4 different sites. We do have 9 food prep sites and 33 delivery sites for our food and nutrition. So there's a lot going on in the district, even though school isn't happening on school sites. So again, we're going to continue to look at the grading situation as we hear more out of Olympia. And in the meantime, we're going strong. So that's my report this evening, President Swain.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. All right, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second, anyone?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, any discussion?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Questions? Okay.
Just Dr. Reed, if I can ask a question right now, you know, with our transition to continuing the normal course of business, how is hiring looking? I was thinking about that when I was looking at the personnel report. I know this is usually a busy time of year for hiring for next year. So how's the process? I know that, you know, obviously we won't know until August until how all the positions will be filled. I'm just wondering how the process is looking.
So great question. We're continuing to have conversations around staffing at the cabinet level. And my understanding is later this week, we're going to have staffing allocation formulas based on updated enrollment projections. So that currently our HR and business department have been meeting individually with each regional assistant superintendent, who in turn, when we have the enrollment demographics and staffing allocation formula set, will be meeting with each of their principals. So that's all rolling out in the next couple of weeks as it would normally. And we're going to continue to hire the absolute best candidates we can for North Shore. At our job fair prior to the pandemic, we've had well over 350 candidates here on the weekend seeking employment in North Shore. So we're still moving forward with our regular hiring practices for sure.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Anyone else have any thoughts? Questions? Okay, well, the consent agenda was, there was a motion to approve and there was a second. So I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Okay. All right, the agenda is passed unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will move on now to action items. The first action item, this is the first, I guess we have 2 on the list here. To the award of a contract for phase 2 of the district-wide lock replacement. Dr. Reed, do you have any comments?
Thank you, President Swain. I do. And Cindy, if you could put the memo up. My understanding is that the responsive, see if you could scroll up a little bit. It's weird not to be able to control that here. So scroll that up just, there you go. So thanks, Cindy. So what we're doing this evening is I'm asking you to recommend the award of this contract, which is phase 2 of our bond, our 2018 bond monies for security. And this is being awarded to Contract Hardware Incorporated for a base price of $817,000 plus a 15% contingency of $122,560 for a total contract value not to exceed $939,628. And this is to continue to do locks at our 5 secondary high school sites. And these will primarily replace or retrofit existing classroom locks with a more secure functionality, enabling staff to lock the doors without having to go outside of the room to lock them. And this, again, this award to Contract Hardware would be for phase 2 of our lock project.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Anybody have any questions?
I have two. One is there was only one bid. And so I'm wondering if the current situation impacted that, or if there just aren't many companies out there that do this kind of work. And then the second is this work going to be able to be done while our schools are closed, or does it have to wait until we're back being operational?
So good questions. I can only speculate as to why just one bid, which is only one contractor sought to do this work with us. But I would say that school construction right now is still labeled essential. So these contractors, to the degree they're able and the degree to which our sites are safe, are able to do this work right now. It kind of gives us a little bit of a jump start because they're able to do it during the day, where if we were in school, particularly at our high schools, we wouldn't necessarily be able to have that work going on until summer. So it's work we're trying to get a little ahead on. So yes, they are able to the degree they have healthy crews to do the work.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Those were my questions exactly.
Yeah, me too. Okay, if there are no more further questions, is there a motion to approve the contract?
So moved.
Second,
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. No further discussion, I assume. We'll call for the vote then. Okay, sorry about that. I was on a different page for some reason. Thank you. It passes unanimously. Move on to our next action item, which is resolution number 811, Interlocal agreement with the State of Washington Department of Children, Youth, and Families. Dr. Reed.
Thank you, President Swain. And Cindy, if you could bring up the resolution, please. Thank you. So I want to clarify that this resolution is something that we do annually, and it is an agreement between the North Shore School District under RCW 74, which talks about developing collaborative agreements with the Department of Children, Youth, and Family Services. It's actually a mandate from the state that we have this agreement and this arrangement. So this is an annual resolution for both King and Snohomish counties. So I would recommend that we approve the state mandated resolution for this collaborative agreement, which enables us to work closely with our Child and Family Services department here in the state.
Great, thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions for Dr. Reed? All right, well, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Any second?
second,
Thank you.
beat you, Sandy.
Yes, you did.
Further discussion? None. I will call for the vote. All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Now we'll move on to a performance review section, although this is more of an update than a performance review for the monitoring report for Superintendent Parameter P10 of technology, and Dr. Reed will explain further.
Thanks, President Swain. Cindy, if you could put up the actual plan maybe first. Thanks. So what I do have this evening is I asked our technology department really to focus on our North Shore Learns initiative right now. So we've not had a lot of conversation around preparing for this parameter for the most part, because the last several months, as you recall, we've been working on this pandemic planning since February. So their energy really is best utilized, focused on that. What I did want to do is stay on schedule this evening with our parameter rotation. And I did want to formally present our current iteration of our technology plan, which a year ago we didn't have, as you recall. A year ago, we were still contemplating a timeline to develop it. And I want to thank our technology leadership, Alan Miedema, Shelby Reynolds, and their team, their leadership team, as well as Mike Bailey, our internal auditor, and Dugan Harmon, Joe Paperman, for their work and their input in forming this plan, as well as our cabinet. It's been by cabinet multiple times, and our communications department has helped with branding and pictures as well. But I think the plan currently is very solid. I think where we're looking at concerns are still in how do we evaluate the effectiveness. So Cindy, if you could go to my memo on my certification for the board. One of the things I would say about evaluating program effectiveness is it's ironic that we're suddenly in the throes of needing to do so many things technological. I think, thank goodness, we've had a generous community for a long time who supported our technology levies. Cindy, if you scroll up to my actual, there you go, thanks. When I think about all of the efforts that have gone on for many years to support the purchase of technology, and as importantly, support the professional development for our staff on how to use these tools, that's really supported our ability to pivot as nimbly as we've been able to pivot to an online learning platform here in the last several weeks. So with regard to P10, while I don't think we're in a perfect place, I think that I am in compliance at this point with your expectations for this. I would also say that this is a current iteration, to stay in our innovative language, but our current iteration of a plan. But it's a heck of a good start, I think, in terms of a roadmap to the future. So Cindy, if you'll keep scrolling and stop, please. Thanks. So one of the things I did was the first bullet is really about the plan and the development. And since last year, I've met several times with our instructional technology leadership committee. And I know the leadership team has met multiple times, as well as our cabinet, have looked at the vision for technology and how it comes together in terms of the actual classroom. And I think that we're seeing a lot of fruit of that labor for many years. And we'll continue to see more iterations of that, I think, as we move forward. Number two, the comprehensive program evaluation. Again, I think if there's an area that we probably need more support with, it's in this area. However, we're continuing to look at ways in which we can assess not only our use of technology, but the outcomes that technology can support by using it. So I think we're on our way, certainly, to doing a thoughtful job of that. Number three, essentially the same systems as last year. They're not new, they're still the same ones. What I would say though this year is, Cindy, if you keep scrolling, thanks, right there. We're continuing to look at our aging HR and business systems. And I believe we came forward several, it seems years ago now, but I think it was only months ago, talking about doing an RFP for our business and HR systems and how they integrate. That's something the bond supported as well. So that's work we're continuing to do, as well as we're looking at some data dashboards, and we're piloting one right now, which enables those schools where we're piloting it to look at student data in a really different way. And we're hoping that supports our multi-tiered systems of support, those structures that we're trying to build. So that would be new this year. So thank you, Cindy. Item 4, the providing equitable access. We have moved with our purchases this year as close to 1-to-1 in the building. I believe, in fact, we should be there by now with our 2 most recent large purchases this year. We've also checked out over 4,000 devices and over 800 hotspots to support our North Shore Learns work. And our website, our communications department and instructional technology and student services departments have collaborated to, I think, create a very robust website of educational resources online right now, all of which support equitable access to our work. And then finally, number 5, this is really about the digital citizenship. Again, this is really powerful work. Very notably, our teacher librarians have led this under the leadership of Shelby Reynolds. And it continues to be something very important, even as we move into this new realm. As we also know, with our cyber challenges in the fall, just having professional development around keeping our network secure has been important. We've also added a banner, a highlighted bright color banner for all email that comes into the district from out of the district to flag that, which has been, I think, originally anyhow was the intent to help be more safe and secure. So we're hopeful that that'll yield positive results. And again, just reminding everyone that our purchasing and technology systems have firewalls and protections that support them. And we have a variety of filters in place, as well as we're moving some of our large services to the cloud as a result of a need for, secure and nimble systems. So that essentially is my update. Is there a 6th? I think that was it, Cindy. Page 6, bullet 5. There you go. Okay. So that's the technology P10 report. So I'd be happy to answer any questions or hear any thoughts or ideas about P10.
Dr. Reed, maybe I'll throw in a thought or two. I appreciate the fact that we're getting this information today. I know technology's been really busy with moving North Shore Learns online, understandably so. But really, the difference a year ago to now with this plan in place and how unexpected technology has become relied upon in our community with the cyber attack and all the work that it took to work with that, but also the one-on-one device and getting students learning and staff ready to go in such a short order with COVID-19 has been really amazing. So I think for me, it just underscores how much this parameter is going to continue to evolve and change with all the new technology tools that are yet to come. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, agreed. If I can ask a question, Superintendent Reed. So I'm curious about the data dashboard system that's mentioned on page 5 to support the MTSS work. I'm wondering what kind of data, I know we've been looking as a system at how we can have a more accurate almost way of gauging how our students are doing and how they're learning. So is this one of those tools that we might be able to use for kind of a modern day assessment system? Maybe?
Thank you, Director Cast. In fact, the tool we're piloting is such a tool. It enables us to use, for example, the iReady data, state data, and other local classroom-based assessments. And it enables teachers and principals to look at grouping and regrouping students. And it's a real-time tool. But again, this spring, we were taking a look at it as a pilot, and we'll see kind of how it plays out in this more virtual world. But that was the intent, to have a more nimble data dashboard to look at. So it's exactly what you're talking about.
Oh, that's great. So is it still able to keep on going, the pilot, given today's circumstances? Are people trying, or is it really best to wait until we're back in the classroom?
Well, I think we always want to try whatever the tools are under whatever circumstances we find ourselves in. I suppose it's most important to try out an umbrella when it's raining. So I think we're going to continue to try it. I think that the types of interventions that we had planned to continue to use the data check-in, for example, with reading, North Shore Middle School really set up a robust intervention system for reading, and they had certain plans in place to support that. So it's going to be, I think, with a change in some of those plans, we can still do assessments and use the data dashboard. It just will look a little different, I think.
Okay, super helpful. Thank you.
I could riff off of that just a little bit. First, just to echo Director Kogan, it's been an extraordinary year for technology in the North Shore School District and pretty much everywhere in the country right now, I think. And the need for flexibility and turnaround time has, I think, made North Shore just shine. And I appreciate having the plan. It's very detailed and a lot of information and what's the word I'm looking for? Well, plans. It's things that we hope for going forward. And so I really appreciated that. And I, in particular, appreciate the discussion around equity and how we can hope to collect the data, the information, and make this truly individualized education using our technology, and then be able to move forward with that to monitor individual students and their individual progress by implementing some of this technology, if that makes sense. Excuse me just a moment, I'm looking at my notes here. It was a very, very good report, and I had lots of thoughts about it, some of which have already been stated. I liked the discussion around the University of South Florida technology integration matrix and the potential for data analysis with that. It'll be really interesting to see where things like that go as we go forward. Yes, well, I'll leave it at that. I in particular, I just wanted to point out the potential for closing opportunity gaps with the use of the technology and monitoring the data the way that you have outlined in the plan.
Well, thank you, Director McGorty. I think one of the things that the team worked really hard on was articulating their why and trying to stay really centered in that. So I appreciate you calling that out.
Yeah, I guess.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Sandy.
Okay. Well, yep, President goes last. So.
That's right.
Yeah, I think the timing of this is quite fortuitous. I feel that we actually are in a great place to provide do a monitoring report. Even more given the situation that we're in. For me, the 98% attendance rate says everything we need to know, particularly about number 3, the equitable access. If we've got more students attending school online than we're attending in person, then our technology department has done a phenomenal job with that work. And I echo that if we didn't have this plan, I'm not sure we would be. If they didn't have that why in front of them for the last year, I don't think we could have moved as quickly. I hope, because I know that professional development is part of the technology levy, as well as this parameter, that when they've got a moment to breathe later on, that we can get some data. Because I also know that was a key part of the success of this, is that we were able to do the professional development for teachers rather than, I know there's other districts where they were just told go online. And I think that to the extent that it's working as well as it is, it has a lot to do with the professional development that was provided for our staff, as well as devices to paraeducators and so forth. So I think that an amazing job has been done under this parameter, and I'm thrilled.
Yeah. President Hayes, I know Deputy Superintendent Dugan Harmon's worked very closely with our technology department and our regional assistant superintendents, as well as our chief leadership and strategy officer. It's just been a team effort. Our principals have had a heavy lift, our teachers, it's our paraeducators, everyone has just stepped up, but it's easier to know where to connect when there is a plan. I would certainly agree with that. And also thank you to the board for approving really the two major purchases to finish out our one-to-one this year. I think that in retrospect was hugely timely, that we had so many devices delivered this year that we absolutely obviously needed. So timing's everything, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Reed, for that update. I just had one thought and I guess request, and I'm sure you're already looking at it, is just looking at the numbers of devices that went out and the number of hotspots. If we could look at, how do we continue to provide those items to families that really need them? And I know there's subsidies for hotspots through, as T-Mobile has helped us out quite a bit right now, but how do we identify those families that really can't even afford a subsidized hotspot and or just need to check out a laptop for their kid or their kiddos, for the school year period? I think they're all, if kids don't have computers at home, they end up going to the libraries to use them. Now that they have them in their hands, they're probably learning a lot more and are able to explore. And it would be great if we could figure out a way to have families check those things out throughout the year going forward, whether we're doing it online or back in the classroom. So.
Well, President Swain, I think I'm glad you mentioned that, because we actually had started that at the beginning of the year. Our one-to-one work began in September, checking out computing devices and hotspots to students who needed them. And I want to be clear that we are actually paying the subsidized rate for the hotspots. We're not asking families. Mm-hmm. The district is covering those costs at this time. And they're at a really reduced rate by T-Mobile. And we really thank our corporate sponsor or corporate partners in that. But we are covering those costs. And you're absolutely right. We need to make sure families and students have those devices and that access, whether we're in a pandemic or not.
Yeah. The numbers must be a lot higher than what we were. Do you have any idea what the numbers were at the beginning of the school year as far as devices and hotspots before we got to this point?
We were in around the 100. We ordered 200 hotspots and we had checked out, I'm going to say we were in the several hundred. We were not in the several thousand. Yeah. Which again, we started at high school. And once we started checking out devices, it was K-12, as you know. But I think sometimes necessity also creates a different level of interest in what we needed to do. So.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you. Any further questions or thoughts? I guess I think we've decided, Dr. Reed, once staff has a chance to really update the monitoring report, we'll come back to an official performance review, I think later towards the end of the official school year, I think, or whenever you feel that your staff and you are ready for it.
Well, actually, I think we're ready now.
Are we ready now?
Okay. I'd like to say, I think this is really substantial. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's evidence of great evolution, I have to say. It's really exciting to watch the evolution. And if you think about it too, both the cyber attack and responding to our current crisis shows such creativity. Besides just being nimble and fast, the kind of student-centered solutions that everyone found, not just within the IT department itself, but everyone out, like Director Hayes talked about the professional development. I mean, I think it's super exciting, this report.
Yeah, it's very thorough. And Dr. Reed, if you feel like this is, if you didn't need to add to it, I know we talked earlier about adding to it because staff was out, but
yeah, I added some pieces to it last week. Okay. And I have a feeling we're going to be online the rest of the school year. So I really think if we want this done by June, this is it. And if there's more we need to put together or more I need to provide, I can certainly do that.
I think an asterisk for later this fall or even a year from now with just some information around the professional development and some data points that we will be curious about how this all rolled out. But it certainly, I don't think needs to happen in order to vote on this parameter.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay, excellent.
I also think Director Hayes that there may be another parameter on professional development that I can add that in on, but
Perfect, perfect.
I'm getting the sunshine on my camera here.
Good problem to have,
Yeah,
President.
no, it's nice. We got too many windows in this house. Okay, there we go. Okay, well, that being said, then I will ask for a motion of the three options. I don't have those official notes in front of me, but we either find the superintendent in compliance with the parameter, making adequate progress towards compliance, or not in compliance, I believe are the choices. So if there is a motion, would someone like to carry on one of the three?
President Swain, I'd like to move that the superintendent is in compliance with P10 technology.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion?
It's great.
Yes, good work. I mean, it's, yeah, more work than you were planning on, I'm sure, as you and staff. Okay, no further discussion. I call for the vote.
So just to clarify, so we'll fill out the paperwork on our own and send that to Cindy at a later point.
Yeah, Dr. Reed, if you could have Cindy, I know Cindy's on the line, she could send out another form, or you could, that'd be great, if it hasn't already been sent. Thank you.
you bet.
Did.
Excellent work, Dr. Reed and staff on technology. We really appreciate it, as do parents and students. So keep up the good work.
Yeah, I'll pass it.
All right, we're done with performance review. Now we'll move on to information items. First item on the agenda here is capital project status update. Dr. Reed.
So thank you, President Swain. Cindy, if you could pull that report up, please. Thank you, Cindy. So we have, let's start with the Ruby Bridges Elementary School. And we have some new pictures. Principal Kathy Davis also sent some pictures over the weekend. This is really exciting as we watch Ruby Bridges Elementary come to life. Currently, we are still slated to come in under budget, and you know, timelines look solid. So there are just a couple pictures there. It's a 3-story elementary school, as you know, with 76,000 square feet of space. And the playgrounds are being put in, and we're just really excited to see the progress there. So if you want to go to the next one, Cindy, please. That's Ruby Bridges. And here is Innovation Lab High School. Again, you can see some of the pilings that are being put in. You can see furniture that's being moved. Most of the furniture has been relocated to the 2nd floor, while the concrete slab is being cut for seismic upgrades. That primary work is being done on the 1st floor. So we're continuing to work on the occupancy load and seismic upgrades for Lab High School. And if you go to the next one, please, Cindy. By the way, thank you to Cindy. This is all so new, so I just appreciate how organized and queued up each of these are. So Inglemoor High School Concert Hall, again, that project is, the scope includes improvements to vehicle traffic flow on the campus, as well as some other site and sidewalk improvements. We've had a little bit of a challenge right now with our watershed topics, so we're continuing to work with the city of Kenmore on permitting around the watershed needs on site. But the capital team is continuing to be responsive to these land use permitting, and it's the stormwater diversion variance that's actually creating a bit of an issue. So that work will continue. And then finally, our last project, Cindy, please, is our Skyview Canyon Creek. And it's almost done and coming in right about at budget. They're continuing work right now on the gym, as you can see in the picture, and the gym is the Canyon Creek side, as well as the fields at Skyview. So the updates really, we had to postpone the grand opening because we couldn't have a large gathering, as you know. And as we practice our healthy social distancing, at some point when we're all able to be back together, we'll celebrate and cut the ribbons at Skyview and Canyon Creek, as well as Ruby Bridges and Innovation Lab High School in the fall. So that is our update.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions on the update there? Dr. Reed, I was going to ask any projected ETA on when Kenmore is going to come through on the permitting, or we'll come to an agreement on the stormwater issue.
Oh, for Inglemore, the concert hall?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. I think some of it's been slowed both in Bothell and Kenmore just due to staff and staff having to work remotely. So I know our capital team's been working with planning departments in both the city of Bothell and city of Kenmore. And, you know, I think everyone wants the permitting to go smoothly. It's, there are just some, in the stormwater being one, that's just been a real challenge to troubleshoot. So I don't have a specific timeline, but I can ask for one and get something in the Friday brief for you if that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Just a kind of a guesstimate on timing would be excellent. Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I ask a couple just real minor trivial kind of questions? First one back on the Innovation Lab High School page. Is this the one? I think where in the little graphic there in the center, it has the forecast at, I think it's 27.5 million, and then budget 27.8 million, but they're kind of backwards. Is it, I mean, I would have thought the 27.8 is the higher number. Is that what we budgeted, or is that, do we anticipate it going over budget a little bit?
I think we were anticipating it coming in right about at budget. I do know that they've had to add a little bit of seismic work that maybe we didn't anticipate.
Oh, right.
I can't make this larger to actually see it.
I know. it's kind of funky on the page.
Yeah, what I can do is let me go back to our capital department and let me ask that question for you, and I'll have something in the Friday brief
I
for
mean,
you.
it's a really small amount compared to the total, but it was a little confusing for me. And then on for Ruby Bridges, there's a comment under the updates. The very last one about loss building training. Can you tell me what is loss building? It looks like an acronym, but
yeah, it is an acronym, and I cannot off the top of my head tell you what it is, so I'll have to find out and get back to you on that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you.
Something with stormwater and sewage, I think.
Yeah, that's the best I could come up with.
Well, that possibly is. Yeah, no, I'll get back to you on that. I apologize. I didn't quite.
Thank you.
That one, so okay.
All right.
It all looks beautiful. I love seeing these pictures of the inside of Ruby Bridges.
Yeah, there's some fabulous shots of that. So yeah, let me get back to you on those couple of questions, Director McGorty.
All right, thank you, Dr. Reed. Second item is Capital Projects Fund Allocation Report for February.
Okay.
Reed.
Yep, and again, there's nothing, I'm trying to see if I can get an answer here. There's nothing that I see that's unusual on the capital projects fund allocation report. So Cindy, I don't think you need to bring it up unless, well, okay, there it is. But there's not, it's kind of trending as we would have expected.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
No, I just want to apologize. Somehow I've gotten looped into some meeting my sister is attending and got 15 texts on, and I finally had to stop and say, I should not be in this group. And so that was why I got distracted for a minute. Too many Zoom meetings out there, I think.
It's a lot.
I was in a meeting this morning too and got an invite to attend another meeting, and I'm like,
The new normal at the moment.
Yes.
well, let's move on to our third item, which is district budget status report for February 2020. Dr. Reed. Again.
Okay, thanks, President Swain. So again, we continue to have a slightly higher than budgeted enrollment FTE, which is a positive solid. Our budgets, all major budgets, are trending as we would expect them to. The fact that the county administrators for both King and Snohomish County have delayed property tax statements till June, I believe, our property tax payments from April 30th to June 1. That month of delay should not materially impact our budget because we do have a fund balance that can support that month. And we would anticipate that following that month that will be made whole again. So you might see a slight aberration in the monthly trends because of that delay in property tax payment requirement for King and Snohomish counties.
Dr. Reed, to that end, I know we're looking at the month of February, so that was when we were still in the normal universe. I'm wondering if it's possible if we could get just some asterisks that we can use as notes for March, April, and May of things that will not look normal because of this. For example, the tax collection, that we won't see that traditional influx of dollars at the beginning of May, spending that may be lower or higher due to the COVID-19 situation, so that you're not, and staff's not inundated then with a whole slew of questions every month of why is this percentage so off from last year, that if we can just have that as we look through these each month, then we won't bug you quite as much.
Well, I am in favor of that.
Always a good idea.
I also think it helps our community understand what might look like a different pattern. And I think that's great advice. So I'll make sure, I think staff, we've already discussed that a little bit because we're going to have to make sense of obviously a diminished revenue that the state's receiving as well. So just trying to be really thoughtful about this.
Yeah, I was going to ask Superintendent Reed, actually, do you have, besides the tax deferment, the tax collection deferment, and any first scan of substantial impacts to our financials because of the crisis?
Well, I think if we're going to be providing significantly more compensatory services potentially this summer,
Okay.
Assuming we may be back in some type of school potentially, if we're not provided with extra resources to do that, that's going to be a huge budget impact. I would also say that there are some aspects of the work we're currently doing around delivering meals and nutrition that the federal guidelines and state guidelines are not necessarily aligned with yet in terms of where you can charge off those expenses. So I think hopefully as the bureaucratic rules catch up with the need to do work on the ground, the impact can be mitigated in many cases, but we are definitely keeping track of our COVID expenses. For example, serving meals during spring break. That's not something we would traditionally do. Maybe it's something we should be doing, but it hasn't traditionally been a role the school district has played in North Shore. So just looking at those different services we're providing, obviously there will be different costs. The cost to support all the hotspots,
Right.
Granted, we are able to use our tech levy support monies for that. But you're right. There are going to be some, I think, significant expenses that we're going to have to make good on. So yeah, we'll track those, but that's a good idea in terms of future budget patterns, because I don't think the pattern will look the same moving forward.
Great, thank you.
You bet.
Good idea. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you, Dr. Reed. Our final information item is G4 Building Condition Assessment Report.
Yeah, so let's take a look at that. That's something that's required. Actually, Cindy, if you could go, I think there's a cover letter. And I'm trying to remember. I'm channeling my inner Cindy. This is a requirement, and I think we're somewhere that describes what this report is and how often it's done.
It's in board docs, I think, the little paragraph.
Bullet, but so anyhow, it's something that we traditionally do on a regular cycle to look at each of our buildings. And let me try to bring it up on my phone. Maybe that'll work. Board docs. Cindy, are you able to go to board docs and
Can try.
There's only one document in there. That's this one.
yeah, I think it's in the description.
Oh, just in the cover.
Well, it's in the language on that item, I think.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and public content.
Yeah.
Would you like me to read it? I've got it in front of me.
Yeah, I just was hoping the community could see it, but I think, sure, let's go ahead and read it.
So it says WAC 392, 347, 23 requires that school buildings that receive school construction assistance funding, also known as state match, and were accepted by the school board after December 31st, 1993, be included in the required asset preservation program, also known as APP. As required by the APP, an annual building condition assessment, acronym BCA, is performed and results are reported to the board at a public meeting. 7 schools have been included in the required asset preservation program annual report. Scores range from 82.7 to 100%, with 100 being excellent. All buildings included in the required report met or exceeded their expectation BCA score for 2019.
Yeah, and it's my understanding we keep a full cycle of these, but for the 7 schools that we are required to look at in this report that we're required to bring to you in a public meeting, they all have met their expected score. So it's an information item from our capital projects group.
Great, thank you, Dr. Reed.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, any questions before we move on? Okay, thanks. All right, we're moving on to policy review. So we do our review of parameter 10 of technology, if there are any changes or thoughts of changes to the policy itself. Anyone have any thoughts or ideas?
No.
Okay. It's very thorough, and
Yeah.
again, the staff and Dr. Reed are doing a thorough job. So I'm sure she could add to Dr. Reed, I'm sure you and the staff could actually add to this yourselves, things that we didn't think about before.
Maybe, but I think this is pretty comprehensive.
I don't think we need to add anymore, but okay, let's move on from that. Discussion items. We have start time progress and North Shore Innovates. Dr. Reed.
Sure. Start time progress. Actually, over the break, I received a note just saying, from one of our work group members, kind of checking in, right? And I think that we were very close to coming to you with a recommendation, and then a pandemic happened. So at this point, we set a time to meet one more time before I bring something to you, because we're really trying to be thoughtful about, is this the right time to make a move on start time? Are there other ways and other factors we can be considering? Frankly, right now, the traffic has been really good. So we could probably cut our time for bus getting in half easily, but the transportation, obviously, once people start going back to work, we're going to be back where we were a bit congestion wise. So update is that we are meeting on the next couple weeks, and I will have something for you maybe by the last meeting this month, is my hope.
Great.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Reed. Any questions? Okay. North Shore Innovates then.
Well, I think what I would say on this point is we've suspended all committee work for till the end of April, just so we can focus on our classroom to cloud work, which is essentially the classroom work that teachers and our paraeducators and support staff are doing directly with students and families. So we have not had a meeting since our last report. But what I'd like to sort of slide in here under Innovate is a plea from our security director, Henry Simon, stay home, stay healthy. Request from our governor means that we need to come up with an innovative way to exercise at home and not on our tracks or fields or tennis courts, because we have closed those as per the governor's order. And we've had several 911 calls from neighbors of our high schools, because of large gatherings. So just wanting to remind people that right now, innovating at home is a really good idea as we practice social distancing to stay healthy. So.
Thank you, Dr. Reed. All right, we'll move on to board reports and communications. First off, we have an item of WASDA proposed legislation. I'm assuming potentially Director Hayes or Director Cast would be leading this discussion.
That would be Director Hayes, I think.
Yeah, so as the chair of the legislative committee for WASDA, we've been had to change or pivot, the overused word of the season, our thinking about next year's legislative session and the work that we will be doing there, and our ask, changing from a flush revenue situation to a not so flush, that we say. And one of the things that we were looking at is that we do have a technology position. Cindy, I don't know if you can bring up the wording of it, but it's very outdated. And so as North Shore has led the way in online learning in the state, they've asked if we wanted to take a first crack at updating the wording of this position and submit it to WASDA.
Yeah, I think this is really helpful, Director Hayes. You know, while looking at the language, it occurred to me it'd be helpful to have language in there to try to prod the state to take a responsibility for internet connectivity. I think would be applicable to not just the devices, but also the connectivity as well.
The networks.
I have seen language from Superintendent Reichdahl that leans into that idea of the state taking more of a role in that. And so I think that actually could be very supported. I don't know if we'll get funding for it, but I think that that would be receptive around the state to move that, change the wording from some of this OSPI standard or something to more statewide connectivity.
Well, and maybe it's a second sentence in the proposal too, is that, you know, it's not that they need to pay us to somehow provide connectivity, but if you know, they were to take the just responsibility that every household in the state should have internet connectivity. I don't know if we need to be the middleman necessarily. We're doing it now just because it needs to get done. And thank goodness we have smart, wise people who are able to do that. So, but I think ultimately it'd be great if the state, you know, I did see language too where Superintendent Reichdahl called it a utility. It should absolutely be a utility. That everyone, you know, just when folks first got electricity wired to home, it should be a similar kind of endeavor. So I would just propose that we just add a line about that the state should take responsibility for internet connectivity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm all in. I can do that unless I'm looking at our wordsmithing guru down at the bottom of my little grid. But Yeah, if there's anybody else that wants to do it, or if you want me to take a first crack at it and then share.
Sounds like a good idea.
I think,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it would be good if you want to take a first crack and then get
Okay.
it sent out and we can all
circulate it.
edit as
Okay.
we might come up with.
Director Cass, I just wanted to ask for clarification. Your comment about the state taking that on, that wasn't necessarily OSPI, the state. You're thinking the state of Washington?
I'm thinking the state of Washington.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
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 Thank you, Director Kogan. I think that's
Mhm.
important. Again, it's not necessarily an educational function to have the wire or not, or satellite connection, however they want to do it.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it might be something with respect to OSPI having some sort of mandate that they will ensure that all of our students have that capability.
Yeah. Maybe
Mhm.
they. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Maybe, you know, looking through it, because we always look through it with a student lens. That could be.
Mhm.
But there's lots of other, you know, benefits to all aspects of society for
Mhm.
folks to have it in their home.
Great. Thank you, Director Cass,
Cool.
Director Hayes. Appreciate that. Why don't we move on to new business? Is there any new business? Anyone would like to propose?
You know, I have a thought, just kind of a logistical organization thought, you know, right when we do the discussion items,
Mhm.
you know, the start time and the innovates, and, you know, we've been talking about security for a while too. I don't know if it would be a good time to think about the regular updates we want to get as a board, you know, just thinking of the great information Superintendent Reed gives in her superintendent report in the beginning about how we're responding. You know, I'm thinking, I don't know, just to make the most efficient use of our time together, since we have this this one time every other week. If we, instead of, it's just a North Shore Innovates update, maybe it's a, you know, online learning / innovation updates. I just wanted to throw it out to the board to see if anyone thought it was time to rejigger them.
Yeah, I like that. I think I feel pretty isolated and disconnected from what's going on, and I would be. I think that's where my urgency is hearing what instruction is looking like and how students are responding and how that's going.
Yeah, a little more than security. Like for me, if we're getting the security updates to the capital projects report, for me, I would just bump it up a higher level of helpful information.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Thoughts, Dr. Reed?
I'm open to any of the above. I'm not sure if it's an instead of or an addition to, so maybe that would help me a little bit.
I mean, well, what about the start time updates? I mean, if the committee work has kind of paused, I don't know if we need that placeholder on the agenda so much. I'm trying to maybe combine or streamline, not add on, is my hope. I don't know if board members have any thoughts.
I wouldn't mind keeping start time on the agenda until the fall of next year,
Okay.
because that's a topic we're focused on.
Mhm.
And then maybe, like you said, the security, we do get those reports every Friday in the briefing. And so, yeah, I think a lot of that work's happening, which is wonderful. But maybe now that students are remote learning for the rest of the year, that's not as critical.
And so maybe leave things that we do need to track and continue to be aware of, like the start time. Keep it on the agenda, and you know, you can do like you just did today, and just with a statement, we're on pause for now, but then add into the agenda, you know, updates on things that are a little more critical and time sensitive. So not so that we don't want to take some things off the agenda because there's the risk of them getting buried, and we have to remember to get them back on when it's
Right.
appropriate. But yeah, I think it's
Well,
good.
would you rather have the kind of a update on online learning? And we could have it in the discussion items, or or Dr. We can just make sure she puts it in her superintendent's report either way.
Well,
Yes,
maybe just expanding the Innovates, the North Shore Innovates
Hopping on that.
topic, just
Sure.
to include online learning. Maybe that's the simplest way to do
That's
it.
a good idea.
Mm, yeah.
Well,
Because
that's
I'm with Director Hayes. I really, there's so much information that we're able to kind of absorb through osmosis when we're at events and we're doing school tour. That kind of context where
Mhm.
we just don't have the ability to get right now. So it would be really helpful to me to have an opportunity to ask questions and do it in a way that doesn't add another meeting to anyone's schedule, but have it be just part of our normal course of business.
Okay. So we would keep just start time progress and then North Shore Innovates online learning just on for our meetings going forward rather than roll them, just keep them on there. I think that would be a good idea.
I think that would
you know,
work.
if there's a security update, great. And those are usually pretty so quick anyway. Dr. Reed, if you have something you really want to talk about on that, then we could put it on there, or you can just mention it. Typically, it's like the lock program and hardware. So, like you're right, somebody mentioned that we usually get that in our capital budget update and briefs. But
Okay.
I wouldn't, also on that line, maybe also. I know we do this in 2x2s, et cetera, but if anybody has something just an additional item they want to put on discussion items, I think we can contact Dr. Reed and myself or both of us if there's something that you want put on there in a particular meeting also. I think we cover it pretty well, but Director Kogan brought up the start time importance. I think we just keep focused. We don't know what the fall is going to look like, but I think we should assume that we're just proceed that we are going back to class in the fall and be ready for that. We may not be in that situation, but I think we all want to get this, the thing figured out before the beginning of the school year. It might look different, but I think we just prepare to assume that we go back to normal life and see what that looks like. Eventually we'll get there, but it'd be nice to get this wrapped up sooner than later.
That sounds great.
All right, so then what I heard is that I'm going to add for North Shore Innovates, we'll / North Shore Learns update and sort of all things new paradigm. And there are a variety of topics, so I think that's a good idea.
Sure.
So we'll make that adjustment.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Reed. All right, any other new business? Okay, let's move on to board member reports. Dr. McGurty.
Okay, well, I haven't been to too many meetings. Hang on just a second, waiting for my notes to come up here.
Surprised you have notes.
Mhm.
Oh, there we go. The one thing I did do is go to the North Shore Schools Foundation board meeting on Thursday morning. Whoops, I just lost my notes again. I think that was the 9th. I'm just always inspired to learn of all the different things that the foundation is doing to support the district and our teachers, particularly now. They're just funding so much across the district right now and helping our families as well. In addition, I learned about ways that the North Shore staff is also contributing and working with the foundation to help the community and their students and families. So that was a just inspiring meeting. But that was all I've been able to do.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cast.
Similarly, just some online kind of quick check-ins. I sent an update to our legislators to let them know about 2.0, North Shore Learns 2.0. And so and I have been just sending quick little posts to let them know how many meals we're doing, how childcare is going. But it's been pretty quiet with spring break. I didn't send another update, honestly. And also I have gone to two. I think a couple of us have gone to a few of the WASDA statewide just update calls. Not as an active participant, but just to kind of hear where the rest of the state is in terms of, they started off being regional calls, now they're statewide, where any school board director across the state can hop on and kind of hear topics. It is sometimes OSPI is on there. It is, again, one of those places to get the updated information. But besides that, yeah, that's been pretty much it.
All right.
Director Cast, is that the Wednesday mornings? Is that right? The
They
WASDA
have
calls?
They have a few. Sometimes they're in the evening. They try to do a few during the week.
Okay.
And
I can look that up.
yeah, I know. I find it interesting. You know, I heard from, you know, for example, there's a school board director in Bellevue who's wondering if we need to look at the legislative position for WASDA about changes to funding mid-year, kind of planning ahead for how next year's legislative session might work. So there is kind of some interesting conversations that you kind of get picked up, and you know, folks, it is also, I find it also very helpful to hear how people are implementing different remote learning options based on what they have available, and kind of how they're problem solving. It's just a general informational call that it could be helpful.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Cass. David, Director Kogan.
Thank you, President Swin. I have no report to submit at this meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Director Hayes.
Yeah, very, very similar to what we've heard. I've attended a couple of meetings. I did have a communication with one of our state board members as they were writing the language around the waivers for graduation to make sure that it had the wording necessary for our IB diploma candidates, because they have a different set of graduation requirements. So kind of connected our IB directors with the state board to make sure that the wording was what we needed. And I'm happy to say that everyone feels pretty good that the waiver will work for our students.
Great, thanks for tracking that. Thank you, Director Hayes. I don't have much of a report. I'm similar to you folks. Been on a couple of the WASDA calls, just, you know, reading as much as I can about what's the back and forth between the feds and OSBI and the state, and kind of how we're grappling with all of these things. I thought it was a pretty good article about North Shore and other districts in the Times on Sunday about equity and how we're trying to grapple with that. And it was a good article if you haven't read it. And then I've had a front row seat to the online learning here with my wife, as Director Kogan probably has too. And we're all working from home. So as the public may know, my wife's a teacher at North Shore Middle School, and it's been fascinating to listen to her on her Zoom calls. And the kids have been very enthusiastic, and I think they're, you know, tired of sitting around the house, and probably tired of parents telling them to fold laundry all day, and they look forward to getting online. That's probably why we have that 98% check-in rate and the attendance rate. So it's been nice to hear the dialogue. But that is my report. Hopefully we'll have more next time. So thank you, everybody. That will be our meeting for today. I wanted to, before we depart, members of the public, please feel free to email us and Dr. Reed about issues that you would like to discuss. We don't have our in-person availability here, so we still encourage you to send us a note about topics that are important to your concern. So thank you, everybody. And this meeting is now adjourned. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.